Bluff City Media presents Tigers Live with Francis Carlota. Join Francis after every Memphis Tiger game as he breaks down each matchup, player of the game, and upcoming games. Now, let's get to the show.
What's going on, everybody? It's your boy Francis Carlotta, host of Tigers Live, presented by Bluff City Media. I'm your host, and the Memphis Tigers get it's a win. It's a 10-point win, 81-71 against Louisiana Tech, a team picked to win Conference USA, a team that plays hard, has a really good big man, and a team that's expected to win their conference and go to the NCAA tournament. Tigers win 81-71. We'll be joined by Memphis Tigers beat writer Roman Cleary in just a few moments, and then after he joins, we'll give player of the game, moment of the game. After he joins, we'll have Penny Hardaway live here on screen for you all to see his press conference, and maybe a few players as well. Hear their thoughts, hear what they thought about the game, the ebbs and flows of it, the late pull away for the Memphis Tigers against Louisiana Tech. You'll see that live here on Tigers Live. So as soon as I see Roman Cleary get in, I will add him to the stage. And first of all, again, thank you for everyone who is tuning in. Y'all are the best. I love all the support that y'all show. And get into the comments, say what's up, tell me your thoughts on the game. Let me know what you were thinking. I'm sure it wasn't a lot of great thoughts, especially in the first half, and maybe even a bit through the second half as well. But again, eventually Memphis was able to pull away, hit the clutch shots, hit the big shots necessary to win this ball game against Louisiana Tech, 81-71. Shout out to Brian Gillespie here. Memphis, come on, man. The first half was horrid. Brian, I'm with you. The first half was horrid. I'm not going to sit here and say that the second half was horrid. They showed some more fight and want to on the defensive side of the ball, especially when it became crunch time. They really shut Louisiana Tech down and did a much better job on the defensive end in the second half. Shout out to Grisgirl here. Whew, 2 nights in a row, my blood pressure going up. Yeah, absolutely. Especially for all the Grizzlies fans out there watching that game against the Mavericks. Don't get me started on that game. Don't get me started. This isn't a Grizzlies post-game show. Shout out to the Grizz 901. But don't get me started on that one. That was frustrating as hell. I recognize. But again, at least Memphis Tigers were able to pull away. And shout out to William Jones, my guy. The first half had me a little nervous. Yeah. Yes, it did. The first half had, I think, everyone who root for the Memphis Tigers, who care about this team, very nervous. Not even just a little, very, very nervous. I was nervous too. Yeah, that first half of performance wasn't great. It was not a great first half performance. So let's just get into it before I have Roman Cleary join the stream. Let's just get into it. Yeah, it was Memphis got off to a solid start in the game. They were able to, generate good looks on offense, force a lot of Louisiana Tech turnovers. I think they had 5 turnovers in the first about 4 minutes of the game. It was a conscious effort from Memphis to press Louisiana Tech, put them into uncomfortable situations from the start of the game, and it worked. Louisiana Tech could not keep the ball. It was turnover after turnover from Louisiana Tech, and Memphis was able to capitalize. Memphis was able to go up to a 14-7 lead about a few minutes after the under 16 media timeout. And, you thought that Memphis was then going to be able to keep their foot on the gas, to keep fighting, to keep playing hard. And that just didn't happen. It just didn't happen. If you've watched these Memphis Tigers throughout the whole course of the season, from the first game of the year up until now, you saw a lot of the same things before Memphis went to Maui. You saw Memphis you saw Memphis get off to decent starts, but then struggle hard for the rest of the first half. and sometimes they even get off to bad starts as well in the first half. And then second half, they flip the switch, they turn it back on, and they look like the team we know they can look like. But it was the same recipe. Again, the first half was so bad. They on the offensive side, they couldn't hit a three to save their life. They were also turning the ball over a lot as well, and they just couldn't get into any flow on the offensive side. Credit Louisiana Tech, credit them for playing really solid defense on Memphis, really shutting the water down and playing good perimeter defense, not allowing easy drives to the lane, not giving them easy looks from three. Credit Louisiana Tech. And as Healing and Self-Love says here as well, Danger's got to stop getting early fouls. Yeah, Danger again had two early fouls call on Dane Danger, and he was a non-factor for the whole entire first half. And so that's definitely something Memphis has to find a way to address and keep in mind as they go throughout the season, especially knowing how weak, how lack of depth that this front court has. I do see that Roman Cleary has joined the stream, so let me go ahead and add him and say what's up to Roman.
Hey, what's up, man? How you doing?
I'm well. That was a familiar game, if you ask me. What are your thoughts on that, Roman?
It was a very wonky night of basketball for sure. How about Louisiana Tech just kind of stealing Memphis's three-point stroke there? I mean, maybe it really was the Maui rims or whatever. That was kind of a running joke throughout the week, but right. I don't know. Maybe that was perhaps a solution, but at the same time, that doesn't really make sense because Memphis shot 72% from three in its last game here against Ohio. Yeah. So I just don't really know. I mean, Louisiana Tech is pretty easily the best three-point defense Memphis has faced all year. I think they were allowing a 29.7 three-point shooting percentage from its opponents heading into this game. So this isn't actually super surprising that Memphis kind of struggles from three in this one. But what is kind of surprising is how well Louisiana Tech shot from three. It's just the three-point defense and the defense in general was just very subpar tonight. It was, I mean, I know that Memphis has allowed more points and higher field goal percentages and things like that this year, but I would say this is their worst defensive outing by far in terms of just the execution and the effort and everything between. I mean, obviously, it was still good enough as it came out with the win. Nice resolve at the end of the game to, not let Louisiana Tech just kind of pull away like, we saw last year's team do with lesser opponents a couple of times. But still, I mean, you would have preferred a better outing here for the Tigers, definitely.
Yeah, 100%. A lot of good points made by Roman. I'll try and take them one at a time. First off, yeah, Louisiana Tech. I think they're a better team than a lot of people just expected just by seeing the name Louisiana Tech, right? Like this is actually a solid team that plays good defense. They have a really good big man in Daniel Bocha and good perimeter defenders and a coach who instills a really good mentality and mindset. Team favored to win the Conference USA. So this is not a horrible team that Memphis faced. They were favored by, I think, 11.5, and they ended up winning by 10. So if you bet on this game, I'm sorry, because that last slam changed the whole spread. But anyway, yeah, either way, Louisiana Tech they're not some scrub. That is a solid team. And like you said, Roman, one of the better three-point defense teams that Memphis has seen thus far. And then to your other point about the three-point defense from the Tigers, they looked apathetic on the floor, on the defensive side of the floor. They didn't have the same crispness to their rotations, to their switches, to their ball screen coverages, to their off ball, just sticking with their man. This was probably the laziest three-point defense I've seen Memphis play throughout the entire year. Roman, what do you accredit that to? Is it just the Maui hangover? Is this any cause for worry for you? What do you think about that?
I think it's a little too early to be worried because again, this is just game 8 of the year now. The Tigers are 7-1, and they're probably gonna move up a spot or two in the AP poll, as given that they're able to beat Arkansas State on Sunday as well. So this isn't exactly the time to worry, but it is the time to be weary because these were the types of games that we started seeing in 23-24. This is how it kind of started. They would narrowly escape against opponents that, are better, that they're better than or lesser than Memphis or whatever you want to say. I think back to, teams like Vanderbilt, Austin P, Tulsa, a few of those games that we saw where Memphis won, but they looked far from pretty in doing so. Now, I will say this Louisiana Tech team is probably better than any of those teams that I just named. I mean, Louisiana Tech, as you mentioned, they're the favorite to win Conference USA. And the only reason their computer numbers are even down where they are right now is because they got upset by Southern. If it weren't for that, I think this team would be pretty solidly in the, top 75 or so at KenPom. They're like 107th right now, and they're 90th in the net. But I think those computer numbers would be a little bit better if not for, them getting upset by Southern, as I just said. So this isn't exactly, like a horrible opponent that Memphis was in a game with, like, for example, what Austin Peter Vanderbilt was last year. But it's still very much, I would say, a cause for concern. Again, not going to be worried right now because, again, it is just one game, and they'll have another opportunity to kind of prove themselves against Arkansas State in a couple of days. But, you definitely want to, widen your eyes a little bit here probably.
Yeah, I think those are all, again, very fair points. To get a little positive, though, let's talk about Memphis's, though, and how well they were at forcing turnovers on Louisiana Tech. I mean, forcing, let me see, on the 20 Louisiana Tech turnovers. I was saying,
first half. It was 14.
I was saying at the start of the show that it was a concerted effort from the start of the game that they were going to press Louisiana Tech, speed them up, force them in really uncomfortable positions, and that was clear. And if you look at Memphis's defensive stats, they haven't forced that many turnovers throughout the year thus far. And I think Memphis, they entered the game with a concerted effort to force turnovers, speed Louisiana Tech up. So Roman, what do you think about Memphis's defensive performance, and does that a good sign for things moving forward?
I mean, when you allow Louisiana Tech to shoot the way they did, it's not a good defensive performance, regardless of what you're able to, produce turnover-wise. But it is still encouraging that they were able to produce those extra possessions for themselves, not just with turnovers, but with offensive rebounding. Memphis had a pretty significant advantage on the offensive boards. Despite having to go up against Bacho, obviously we saw in the Auburn game how 6'11" bigs can tear Memphis apart. And obviously, Daniel Bacho is not at the level of Janai Broom or probably even Dylan Cardwell. But he's still a very imposing force down there. He's scored 20 points a game for a reason. And the fact that Memphis was able to do as well on the rebounding side as they did tonight with guys like him in there, I would say is encouraging. I mean, Caden Cooper at 6'5" is another tremendous rebounder. He averaged, 8 boards a game heading in. I mean, this Louisiana Tech team does have some solid players. It has some solid talent. And I think they will end up doing very well in the Conference USA, if not winning it, especially with teams like Florida Atlantic now out of the league. So, again, we've said this, we've rehashed this over and over again. Louisiana Tech is not at the level of what an Austin P was, where Vanderbilt was last year. But, the defense, going back to your original question, it just has to get better, simply. It has to.
Yeah. How do you feel about this comment from Wayne Kelly? I think it's time to start Danger and bring Musa off the bench. Musa is playing hard, but Danger makes the offense flow better. What do you think about that, Roman?
I mean, Danger has outplayed Cisse significantly ever since the two kind of switched up there. Obviously, Danger was starting those first few games of the year, and I didn't really see anything wrong with that. But ever since they switched it, I mean, I go back to that San Francisco game where Memphis was down 10-1 in the first few minutes, and they had to bring Danger in there to kind of get them back in the game. I mean, Musa Cisse is a very valuable piece to this team. Tremendous shot blocker, rim runner, super athletic. You'd rather have him than not, that's for sure. But Dane Danger is the best big on this team. He's the most talented big on this team. And not only is he by far your best offensive option, but he's also proven to be very capable defensively. He had this, I guess, in my opinion, this unjustified reputation of being a bad defender, even though there was really no real evidence of him being a bad defender in Illinois, at least not based off of the film that I watched on him. And so if he is a capable defender, obviously not as good as Cisse, but if he can continue to be a capable defender, a capable shot blocker on top of the offense that he brings on that end, I don't see any reason why he shouldn't be starting.
Yeah, I think those are really good points. If I had to play devil's advocate for a moment, maybe it's because they're trying to protect Danger from the foul trouble. It's multiple games in a row where Danger gets
They can't
two
do that
fouls
anyway,
early.
though. It really
Yeah,
seems like they
that's
can't do
true.
that anyway, though.
Yeah,
Because
that's
regardless of whether he's starting or not, he's going to play starter minutes. So
yeah.
I mean,
No, that's totally fair. It's something that I think would address some of those early start concerns that we have for the Tigers on the offensive side, because it is a night and day thing. When Danger's in the game, the offense flows better. Danger's a better passer. He's a better scorer. He's just like you said, a better player than Musa Cisse. So it's something to monitor. It's definitely something to monitor as the games continue. But Roman, give me your player of the game for this contest.
you know what? Let's go, PJ Haggerty. He's got a few familiar faces in the building tonight. Actually, his high school coach Edwin Egan's was here watching this game. He obviously, Sean Elkinson, he Louisiana Tech forward, his former high school teammate. He didn't. I don't think he saw any action in this game, but he was here too. Haggerty led the team with 23 points. We'll give it to him.
Okay, yeah, I like that. Yeah, PJ was PJ Haggerty again. I don't know what to say. It'd be 12 for 12 from the free throw line, like you said, 23 points, 7 steals. 7 steals. That's ridiculous.
Oh my god, I haven't even checked that yet. Oh my.
Yeah, that's nuts. 7 steals, 6 boards. So yeah, PJ was awesome. Shout out to Tyrese Hunter as well. I know that he was cold on the offensive side in the first half, but second half, Tyrese Hunter, he was back to basically being Maui Tyrese Hunter. 20 points. He hit a big three. He had that big and one, though he didn't make the free throw, but he had big buckets at the end of the game, and he also had 2 steals himself. Basically, every starter, I'm looking at the box score now, every starter had a steal. PJ just happened to have 7 of them. But yeah, shout out Tyrese Hunter. He also had a very, very good game. Roman, do you have a moment of the game for this one?
Probably I would say the 5-point possession that Memphis had late in the second half that pushed their lead up to 9 with, I think, a little under 4 to go. I think that was a pretty key moment for Memphis in terms of kind of separating themselves. And then you have Colby Rogers hitting that 3 with 55 on the clock that kind of put it out of reach. So Memphis definitely was at its best in the final 5 minutes of this game.
Yeah, absolutely. You saw probably the best defense from Tyrese Hunter too in the final 5 minutes of the game. He did a better job going over ball screens, playing better on-ball defense. That was the most locked in I saw him on the defensive side of the ball, really for Memphis in general for the entire game. Yeah, I agree that's my moment of the game as well. As soon as that flagrant one got called, when Jordan was going up for the dunk, and then he hits his free throws, and then Colby Rogers 3, and then another 5-point swing where Tyrese Hunter gets fouled, and then Tyrese Hunter hits a 3. That's it. That's the game right there. It's basically 10 points from nothing, and so that was the moment of the game, and it was definitely the few moments that I saw that the crowd was able to really get cheer for this team, because I get it. It's a Wednesday night, it's cold, it's hard to get out downtown, but I at least appreciate that the Tigers are still able to get this one to pull away. This was a tough game, especially in the first half. But second half, Memphis hit the shots necessary. They did what they had to do to come away with the victory. Roman, as we look ahead for the rest of the schedule, that they've got some really big games coming up. I know they have Arkansas State, but after that they go Clemson and then Virginia. Do you think that this team is going to be as well? I'll rephrase my question. With Arkansas State coming up, do you have any worry that it might be another lullaby game?
Excuse me. Talvin Hester for Louisiana Tech is about to come to the podium. So
okay, no worries, Roman. Thanks, bro.
Thank you. Of course.
Yes, sir. Okay, so Roman is off to do his press duties for the game. So I'll just address the question that I was posing to Roman. This seemed like the game, the post Maui hangover, as you hear analysts say all the time, especially coming from the paradise that is Hawaii, and then coming back to Memphis, and in the cold, it's different weather. It's just different coming from Maui to back home, wherever you play your home basketball. And so yeah, it's Louisiana Tech, Conference USA team, but they still couldn't take this game lightly, as we saw in the first half, and they didn't. They did early on. They definitely didn't seem to be as locked in as they needed to be, but then as crunch time came through, they really needed to show up and show out. They did. They did. They were able to pull away, get the victory. But then as you look ahead, they play Arkansas State on the 8th, and after that, they got the big ones. They go at Clemson, at Virginia. So let's see. I'm really hoping that they're able to pull away and get a blowout win against Arkansas State when they do face it, because I think that'll tell me a lot about the mentality of the team, the mentality of where they're at right now in terms of what they got going on. I think that'll be a big key moment for the team. Hopefully they can pull away. Shout out to Daniel Greer here. Chris 901 and Tigers Live gonna need to be sponsored by Tom's. Oh man, yeah, that's one thing. That's absolutely right. You ain't lying, man. We're gonna need to be sponsored by Tom's. It was a stressful night for Memphis Hoops. 2 nights for Memphis Hoops, but coming off the Grizz game, watching this one for the Tigers against Louisiana Tech, no question. Shout out Daniel Greer. Shout out to Healing and Self-Love again. Definitely Danger makes the offense flow better. Yeah, I'm with you. I'm with you. I think anyone who watches these games are can see it with their own 2 eyes that when Dane Danger's on the floor, they can really, their offense clicks just much smoother than how it is when he's off the floor. So I really hope that the Penny makes a change. I don't know if y'all recall the reason why. I don't know off the top of my head why Danger was put to the bench. I think I recall Penny Hardaway saying something that it was an internal issue that they were dealing with, which is why Danger got put to the bench. So whatever that internal issue was, obviously I don't know what it is. Whatever that issue was or is, if it still is an issue, hopefully it gets fixed and Danger can get reinserted into the starting lineup, because I think that will alleviate a lot of those early game slow starts that we've been seeing from the Tigers, especially against, you didn't necessarily see that against UConn. They got off to a really quick start against UConn. They got off to a good start against Michigan State, but you see the slow, sluggish starts against the lesser opponents. It's harder. It's hard to get up for these games. I get it. Y'all get it. It's human nature. But you got to play the game. You got to beat the opponent that's in front of you. It's that simple. And you got to get up. You got to treat every game like it's your last game, especially at this level of basketball. And if starting Dane Danger will be the catalyst to helping Memphis get off to better starts, then I think that'll be the right move for sure. Let's see. Yeah, shout out to Paul Norwood here. All I can say about this game is a win. Not pretty, but we won. Paul, I'm with you, man. A win is a win. Is a win. Is a win. That's it. That's all that matters. Winning games. And Memphis, they're ranked 16th in the nation right now. As you all recall, the last time Memphis was in the AP poll, it was pretty much downhill from there. It was just a tailspin out of the AP poll after being ranked. And it was because of losses to teams worse than that Louisiana Tech team that Memphis just beat. And so hopefully this is more of a sign that Memphis is just going to find ways to win these games. Hopefully they can blow a team like this out especially when they play Arkansas State. But at the very least, they got the win, which is the most important thing in any game for the Memphis Tigers, especially before they enter this daunting stretch of out-of-conference play. Again, I'll do a look ahead later, but at Clemson, at Virginia, then Mississippi State, then Ole Miss at home before entering conference play. So, yeah, it's going to be a really, really tough stretch. Tough stretch of games. Sorry, I'm getting text from Kenny Stubblefield. He's letting me know that the Louisiana Tech coach is talking right now. Then once he's off, we'll have Penny Hardaway live for y'all as soon as he steps to the post-game press conference. But yeah, it was a good win. overall. Good win overall. So I'm going to send this to a commercial break. On the other side, hopefully Penny Hardaway will be on doing his press conference, and you'll be able to see that live. But right now, I'll send this to a commercial break. I'll see you on the other side.
Jake has had a great season, all things considered. Jake Arabia in his third season. He's showing the league, the Grizzlies fans, that he is a competent NBA player, and I'm okay with that. Like, you know, like I'm fine with just that he's proven that he's an actual player in the NBA, because he was not showing us that for the last couple of years. He's been a very pleasant surprise, and almost a necessary surprise. With guys like Vince Williams out, I just think we as a fan base just have to calm down. Like, if we've seen him, he's one of the true build-a-bear projects, like I say, with this organization and with this team, where they take a guy and give him every opportunity to succeed. Opportunities that other teams probably wouldn't give a guy. You know what I mean? Most teams, a guy like Jake the Raven would not have made it to this point. So, like I said, he's gone from being a guy who's looked terrible to a guy who's looked like a competent NBA player. And I'm fine with just kind of stopping it right there.
Tune in to The Anthony Sane Show, Wednesdays and Fridays at 12 p.m. weekly on the Bluff City Media YouTube channel.
UConn played a fine game. Like, they weren't bad. They played well. Tigers
Both teams
better.
Played very well.
Tigers were just better. You've watched a lot of college basketball. That has to rank way up there just in terms of overall game, right? Like, it's just,
that's what I'm saying. Even as a general fan, like, that was a good basketball game to watch.
Yes,
Both teams were making shots. They had post guys that were playing well. There were defensive plays left and right. I mean, there was excitement in the sense of some technical fouls and other stuff, which, I mean, isn't always the best. But that was the biggest part to me. I was thinking it at halftime and early parts of the second half. It was like, even if we don't pull this out today, like, this team, they look good. They're having fun, and it's making the viewing experience, especially as a fan, fun. And that's what I feel like that's what we've missed.
Tune in to Tigers Untapped with TJ Willis and Trey Lasley every Wednesday at 3 p.m. on the Bluff City Media YouTube channel.
Welcome back to Tigers Live. I'm Francis Carlotta, host of the show. Memphis won against Louisiana Tech tonight, 81-71. We just had Roman Cleary on, the beat writer for Bluff City Media, who covers the Memphis Tigers, one of the best in the business. And right now, I see that Penny Hardaway has not stepped up to the podium, to the microphone just yet. But as soon as I see him step up to the microphone, I will send this to the FedEx Forum so y'all can hear his post-game thoughts. Before we do that, though, I want to emphasize what Roman and I discussed when we talked about our moment of the game. That moment when Nick Jourdain, Memphis trapped, forced a turnover. Nick Jourdain then got the ball, rised up with bad intentions to try and slam that one home. Then he gets fouled, and then they go into the under 4 media timeout, and the announcers are talking about how the refs are looking at this for a possible flagrant foul. And you kept looking at the replays, and you see the Louisiana Tech defender just smack Nick Jourdain straight in the face. I think Jourdain had a bloody nose, actually. I couldn't really tell, but I think he did. He kept touching his nose like he had some blood coming out, but he got absolutely smacked on the face going up for that dunk. And for my money, for the definition of what a flagrant 1 foul is, especially hits to the head, I'm cool with that being called a flagrant 1. Definitely not a flagrant 2. No chance in that for me. But I was cool with that being called a flagrant 1. And that I knew as soon as it got called a flagrant 1 that this could change the game. If you don't, whether or not you remember, Memphis was only up 67-63 prior to the flagrant one being called. So it's just a 4-point game. It's basically a brand new ball game at that point. And then Nick Jourdain hits the two free throws, and Memphis gets a possession because it was a flagrant one. And then Tyrese Hunter hits a big time three, big time corner three, like nothing but net, cash. And Memphis needed that bucket. And the lead went from 4 to 9 in basically the blink of an eye, out of absolutely nothing. And as soon as that happened, yeah, that was basically game. It changed the entire complexity of the game, complexion of the game, excuse me. And that Memphis was really able to take control from there. Louisiana Tech tried to fight back, and then all of a sudden, again, it became a 5-point game. But then another big swing with a Tyrese Hunter and one. He missed a free throw, but then a Colby Rogers 3, and that made it a 10-point game at that point. So, that was it. Credit Louisiana Tech for their fight. They definitely were scrappy, gritty team. They fought Memphis hard, but Memphis was able to hit the big shots when needed, to lock in on defense when needed, and was able to pull away 81-71. I'm really interested to see what Penny Hardaway has to say about that performance. He has yet to come to the microphone, and so that tells me that he's probably still talking to his team. And gosh, I wish I could be a fly on the wall for that locker room speech, because it's probably not the prettiest thing after that total performance from the Tigers. I'm sure Penny's getting a little bit of deja vu after last season in general. I'm sure he'll get questions about the performance, any concerns that he has for the team. Yeah, I'm sure he's going to get asked some really important questions here in this press conference. So, like I said, as soon as I see Penny Hardaway step to the mic, I will add him to this stream. Shout out to Eric G here. This game proved that we should press more. Eric, I'll fight with you a little bit on that, because I think Memphis pressed a lot in this game. I think they pressed Louisiana Tech a lot. And not only did they press them a lot, sometimes the press would bite them in the butt because they would be out of position. Louisiana Tech would break Memphis's press, and it would lead to Memphis would just be scrambling on the defensive side, and Louisiana Tech would have the advantage in transition. They'd hit an open three, or they get an easy shot at the rim. So I think Memphis pressed when they should have. I'll put it to you that way. I don't think this told me that Memphis should be pressing more, because I think they pressed Louisiana Tech a lot, and that ended up biting them in the butt sometimes. So I think Memphis did a solid job of mixing in defensive looks, mixing in the type of presses that they were doing to try and at least take them off of the rhythm. But the bigger concern is the 3-point defense. That's by far the biggest concern. I'm not concerned about Memphis pressing. I'm not concerned about that at all. Not concerned about their how hard they play, how well they trap. I'm not concerned about that. They forced 20 turnovers. So that's not the issue. The issue was the 3-point shooting that they gave up from Louisiana Tech. Louisiana Tech shot 13 for 23 from deep. That's 56.5%. So that to me is the bigger concern. And that shows to me that in the half court, they have to be much more disciplined, much more locked in, much better at communicating, because otherwise they're going to get torched from deep. So that's how I'm feeling about that. So I see Penny Hardaway is on the stage, so I'll throw this to the FedEx Forum right now.
They did lose the last game to Southern University at home. Southern did a great job of changing things up, but we knew that game didn't mean anything, that they were going to come in here, and this was going to be their national championship game, and the hangover from Hawaii to me still stood it in the way, even though we knew what this game meant to them. It needed to mean more to us, and we still pulled it out. We didn't play our best. We still pulled it out.
Hey, Coach, when you're in a rhythm playing game after game after game, you get into a nice little groove. Being off 7 days, how much did that rust of not actually playing a game affect the start of your game?
I think it hurt a little bit because you have that time off. It does hurt you, especially if you're not coming out and being aggressive from the beginning. It's just, with this new team, I keep saying the same thing. They still haven't been in enough battles together to kind of understand what to do. We just have great pieces that can make a play at any time, and it's been working for us. But when we get into a groove, we almost got to our goal today with 20 assists. We have 14. We keep getting better on trusting our teammates, not taking bad shots, and then playing better on the pick and roll and man to man. Then we're gonna get better. But that rust did hurt us.
Penny gave up a lead in the first half, came back out, took a double-digit lead, and they closed the gap again. What was it about that last stretch that you guys had that allowed you to pull away and come away with the victory ultimately? Just the big-time players making big-time plays on both ends of the floor. You got to give them credit. They shot the ball really well. We knew the usual suspects and just still couldn't stop it. It's just a part of the game, man. You're just happy to get out of these games with W's because, again, really good team that's picked to win their conference. We're not playing shabby teams. We're playing teams that can actually beat you, and we have to play on a nightly basis. Is that fair to the team? Because we don't have the games that you can win by 30, 40, that you can get ready for the next game or whatever. We don't have those games, so we're right in the fire.
Benny, I asked PJ and Tyrese this question post-game. They were coy about it. I'm going to ask you, would you be willing to call them the best backcourt in America?
I would be willing to call that. And that's not even that's just my confidence in the guys that I have. But I go even further and say the best trio of guards with Colby. You can't leave Colby Rogers out, man. I love PJ Haggerty and Tyrese Hunter, but Colby Rogers is a bad boy. Those three guys are really good, and I'm glad we have them. But, no, I wouldn't be maybe they should stay humble, but I can say just being a guard, just watching guards every night, that they could arguably be that.
Louisiana Tech, was obviously very lethal from behind the three-point line tonight, especially 62% in the first half. What kind of happened there, you think?
They're good players. Coach has done a good job of going out and recruiting, and we're everybody's best game. So you're getting how we went into the UConn game and we went into the Michigan State game. That's how that team came in here on us today. It's a different level. That's just how it works. And they shot the ball because they were ready.
Sorry, obviously you had a few scares that look similar to this last year, but would you say Louisiana Tech is a better team than say what Vanderbilt was last year or Austin Peay or some of those games?
Arguably, you could definitely say that. They're projected to win the Conference USA, and they got a good group of teams over there. So at the end of the day, you got them in Middle Tennessee right now that's kind of separated themselves. But yeah, you could say it's similar to the Vanderbilt and Austin Peay game. Maybe a little better than Austin Peay, but maybe right there with Vanderbilt. But they had some good players, man. And the big boy, he caused a lot of problems for us. That point guard did a great job, and their shooters made shots. They did what they had to do.
After what you've seen from the team through the first 8 games, how far or how close are they to reaching their potential defensively, what you want to see from them this season?
Yeah, we're not far off in all areas. Or I'll say we're not far off. We just have to commit to the pick and roll and guarding our yard. Once we do that, that's going to make us one of the most elite teams in the country. If we could just commit to on-ball defense and pick and roll defense, everything else we'll be able to handle because you don't create those triggers. If you don't give up a dribble penetration, you don't have to play out a closeout. So you do those two things. So we're really close to being one of the best top 5 defenses in the country.
Hey, Penny. Your team played a very physical game today. You finished plus 13 on the board. You forced 14 turnovers in the first half. What was your message coming into this game about physicality?
Yeah, we were trying to, when we played back in the day, we try to take teams out in the first half that we think we're supposed to beat, right? We're thinking we're supposed to beat La Tech in our minds. This is how we think because that's the confidence you're supposed to have. You're trying to take those guys out in the first half. So we came out super aggressive early, and then it just fell off. And then when they gained confidence, they knew that they could play with us. Then it was a dogfight, and we told them that from that point on.
Hey, Coach, how do you manage your players, to stay focused for each game? Because now, early on, you were just riding the wave. Now you're getting all these accolades. How do you keep them focused on the here and now, the day-to-day?
Yeah, it's it's the task of human nature. Like when you win a game like UConn, you get 100 text messages. You beat Michigan State, you get another 100 text messages. So you start reading that, you start believing. Then you go in a game against Auburn, get beaten, but still everybody's going, you guys are on the map. You get put in the top 25. You start reading that and you forget that you still have to go play. And that's the task with a new team, because nobody has anything to, except for Nick Jourdain, to understand that we were 11-2 last year and then we went 8-7 in the last 15 games. So to understand that as a coach, and Nick understands that the rest of the team just doesn't understand that yet. They think we can just do heroics every single night and just pull a win out. It just doesn't work that way. So we just have to change a few things and then change our mindsets, and we'll be okay.
Really, at halftime, when we talked, you weren't thrilled. When you got in the locker room, did anything need to be said, or was it just kind of understood?
It was already understood. I mean, obviously, these teams are good, but when you're at home, you just want to go in with a 10 or plus more lead. You want to just impose your will on teams, and we didn't do that. We started off doing it, and then we let off the gas. And again, we learn from it. Everything doesn't have to be about heroics. It's just about energy. Sometimes you just scrap the game plan and just play your heart out, man. Diving on the floor, taking charges, weak side blocks, and then pushing the ball up the court and playing basketball.
You said earlier that at this point, you're just happy to get out, against a team like this. You're just happy to get out with a win. How far does that go? Like, it's at what point is that?
It's one game, because it gives me a chance to go back and show film and correct. So that's what you really want. You use these games when you win them as teaching, just like you do as losing games, but you get a chance to do it after a win and say, hey, guys, we have to get better at this. And these guys are good enough and understand enough that we have to shift. So I'm looking for us to shift for the next game.
To your point about you and Nick Jourdain having the kind of jump off point from last year, understanding where you guys were in terms of success, how much do you have to reiterate what happened to you guys last year in games like coming up like today?
Yeah, I don't like go back through it and reiterate anything. I just kind of, as a coach, they know that if you start letting your guard down against certain teams that don't have a big name, that you can actually get beaten, and we can't afford that. So basically what I'm talking about is validating who you are. If you're in the rankings, then act like it. Let's act like it. Let's stop reading the text messages about how great we are, and let's buy into what we're trying to do every single night. And it's the non-negotiables every single night that we have to pay attention to. We're only doing half of those and still winning. I just can't imagine what happens when we do the whole entire 100% of what we're supposed to do and then buy into that. We just haven't done that yet.
Penny, obviously through AAC play, once that starts in January, you'll have a whole lot of teams with maybe not as big of names as the Auburns and Michigan States and so on. What have you learned from last season when it comes to like pressing the right buttons to get your guys motivated for Louisiana Tech or East Carolina, Temple, whoever it may be, and having that same focus? Yeah, with some guys, it just doesn't matter. They're used to seeing Baylor. They're used to seeing Iowa State. They're used to seeing Houston. They're used to seeing Texas. It's like, or Kentucky or Arkansas. It's like North Texas, Rice, Wichita State, no respect, but those teams play extremely hard. The one good thing about us this year is Colby Rogers, PJ Haggerty, and Nick Jourdain have all played in the league, so they know, very familiar with how it works. Last year, we only had Malcolm and Nick, but it's best when the guards understand what it's all about as well.
Coach, I know your team has this identity of being three-level scorers pretty much up and down the roster. And then you come into this game, you're the best three-point shooting team in the nation. Tonight, you shoot 35% from three, and you're shooting only like 16, 17, 18 threes a game. At what point do you more of a season-long question, at what point do you just start shooting 20, 23, 25 threes a game?
Yeah, we're really trying to build up to that, if I can answer your question. We're trying to build up to that because we want to run. That takes giving the ball up in transition and not dribbling up. You got to give that ball up to make us faster. We want those transition threes. We want to get to 30. We don't want to forget that we have an inside, but we also want to get those transition threes, and we're not doing that. We're fast enough to do that. And we've been successful when we have done that, very successful in shooting it at a high clip when we get the ball up. So we got to continue to work on that in practice with not dribbling up and getting the ball up the court, like you said. And then in the half court, when you beat your man, you got to get off the ball. It's got to be 0.5 mentality to the next guy, and you get those open threes. Then it goes from 18, 19 to 30. but there has to be a commitment from the guys to want to do that. Thank you. Yes, sir.
Okay, that was Penny Hardaway giving his post-game press conference thoughts. His thoughts in this post-game press conference, about the 81-71 win over Louisiana Tech. Again, just really interesting stuff from Coach Hardaway. The questions about, the hangover post Maui. How can they? Was it about shaking the rust off? All those questions that we had discussed before definitely came up. Penny said, "Yeah, the long break after Maui definitely hurt a bit. The time off hurts, especially not when you're not aggressive from the jump." He keeps emphasizing the new team, this new group of players. We know about the roster turnover from last year, and it's basically a new team except Nick Jourdain. So this new team that they haven't been in enough battles to know how to handle these types of games, to handle these situations as a team, as a group. He emphasized getting better defending the pick and roll, and I think that's a really good shout. He talked about it later in the press conference as well, that they have to commit to on-ball and pick and roll defense, and he's absolutely right. You saw it in the game today. Louisiana Tech just did high pick and rolls, spread pick and rolls, basically the whole second half, and they were picking Memphis's defense apart because Memphis didn't cover those ball screens correctly. It was way too easy for the guard to get downhill. There wasn't proper help when the big man would roll. And if you don't cover a ball screen correctly, like Penny said, it just causes a lot of issues after that. It'll either lead to an open layup or lead to an open three because you're recovering, you're not talking, you're not in the right position. So, yeah, I think that was a really good insight from Penny about how this defense can get better. And he's absolutely right. Improving on-ball pick and roll coverage and improving how they guard the ball, period. It's definitely something that they have to improve on. And I mentioned this earlier to Roman, but when Tyrese Hunter got locked in on the defensive side, especially in the last 5 minutes of the game, you saw some really good on-ball defense from Tyrese. And that's what we're accustomed to seeing. We saw it basically all throughout Maui. Tyrese Hunter being an absolute dog on the defensive side. And I think it's just a mentality thing that the roster, not just Tyrese, of course, the roster has to be locked in on the defensive side and not give up these just frankly easy looks to really any opponent, whether it's Louisiana Tech, whether it's, like Payne said, North Texas or East Carolina or whatever. They just got to be more locked in on the defensive side. He got asked about, is this the best backcourt in America? Shout out to Matt Infield for that question. And he said, yeah, he's willing to say that. He actually said it's the best trio of guards in America because Colby Rogers is a bad boy. You can't leave him open. And I keep talking about this with Colby. Whenever Colby gets into his rhythm before shooting, it's basically going to go in automatically. He's such a rhythm shooter. Even if it's in a post up or it's a one or two dribble pull up, if he is in a rhythm prior to getting up for a shot, it's cash. It's such a beautiful shot that he has, such a high release. It's basically unblockable. So yeah, good for Penny to give Colby his flowers too. Colby had a solid game tonight. So yeah, it's a really good. Colby's a really good player. It's a very, very good backcourt that Memphis has. Question about Louisiana Tech's shooting from three. They're basically lethal shooting from three the entire night. And Penny didn't mention anything specific that his players were doing in terms of coverage. And probably that was purposeful. Penny said he gave all the credit to Louisiana Tech. Good players. Their coach did a great job recruiting. You get everybody's best game when they play Memphis because he said this was Louisiana Tech's national championship game, essentially. And that's what it's like. Memphis is a big name. When these smaller schools play Memphis, it's like the Super Bowl. And Penny's right. He's absolutely right about that. And he gave all the credit to Louisiana Tech. Their shot making, they were ready to shoot the ball from the rip as well. And a similar answer too, even about the question about the similar scares from last year losing to Rice, losing to Vanderbilt, the Austin P, as Roman asked Penny. And again, Penny just said, yeah, Louisiana Tech's probably better than Vandy, probably better than Austin P. But he gave all the credit to Louisiana Tech. He shout out Daniel Bocha and how good he was. Their shooters made shots. They have a really good point guard. So yeah, Penny gave all the credit to Louisiana Tech there. And then the question about how close is this Tigers team to reaching their ceiling on the defensive side? Yeah, I think that's a big one. That's a big one. They are really close to reaching their ceiling. They are close. They just got to lock in and get things tighter. So I see that Colby Rogers is at the mic, and I missed him come as soon as he did earlier. So let me send this to the forum again and have Colby talk with you.
In the post, but I mean, I think for us it's just a matter of just depending on the game. If our guards feel like they can get downhill, then they're going to do that. And if teams give us threes, then we're going to take that as well. So I think it's just situational. So yeah.
I got a two-parter for you. First, on your defense, how good you feel your defense has elevated since the beginning of the season?
I think I made strides in it. I think there's still some things that I can get better at with the fouling, things like that, reaching, things like that, being more disciplined, being more solid. But I think for me overall, I wanted to increase my defense. I wanted to show people that, I can guard and then I want to guard. So, I mean, I think I've taken great strides in it. Actually, I think I keep working on it.
Second part, how would you rate Dane Danger's passing ability?
Yeah, I think Dane, sometimes I think he looks to pass a little too much. But he's a good passer, so I understand it. But sometimes I think Dane is just good offensively as well, that he can just go score the ball. But as a big, for a passing big, I think Dane is really exceptional with that. I think especially when we run him and Musa together, he's good in that high-low situation or playing out of short rolls, things like that. So, yeah, Dane can definitely pass the ball better than most bigs I've seen, probably better than, one of the best bigs in the country that can do that.
You guys missing the Maui rims at all yet, you think?
Those rims are definitely different than our rims for sure. But, I mean, yeah, it is what it is. Now we got to turn the page, so.
Obviously, you hit that, that three with 55 seconds left that, kind of put the game out of reach. Is that something that, you're looking to do, be kind of a closer for the team? Obviously, Tyrese and PJ have mainly taken that role throughout the season thus far, but, it kind of got to be you tonight. What's that like for you?
Yeah, I just try to do everything that is asked of me. And what's asked of me is to be able to make shots when called upon. So I just try to make sure that I'm, locked in and rhythm of the game, and just make sure that when the ball finds me, I'm ready to shoot. So whether it's like a shot today or a first half or middle of the game, whatever, my main thing is just to make sure I'm ready. Because obviously, those opportunities may not come, they may come. Just gotta be ready to make that play. That's just what I want to pride myself on now.
Did after Maui, did you have a bunch of text messages and stuff like getting back after Thanksgiving? You guys get ranked, you get the big wins and those sorts of things. Did you have like a bunch of text messages?
I mean, yeah, I did get a lot of support from family and friends and people that follow Memphis basketball. Obviously, we kind of put the world on notice in Maui. Fans and everything like that wanted to reach out. So yeah, I did get a lot of texts, a lot of calls, a lot of Instagram stuff, things like that.
Is it hard to compartmentalize that, especially after, the long extended road trip and then the holiday and all that stuff? Is it hard to kind of like set that to the side and, turn, like you said, turn the page? And
I think human nature kind of makes it a little difficult because obviously you want to be rewarded for when you do good things. But I just think, when it comes to stuff like this, I kind of got a sense of maturity, like, okay, that's step one. Now we got to move on to step two, which is making sure that we continue to, win these games in this month. So, I mean, obviously with human nature, you kind of can get caught up in that if you allow yourself to. But with me being an older guy, for me, and not normally having this type of, I guess, status from my last schools. For me, it was kind of new. So a lot of times I'm just surprised to hear from certain people, hear from certain, for me, I can't really speak on the other guys. But, yeah, I mean, you can get caught up in it. But I think, if we need to be mature and just turn the page with that.
And to kind of keep on that same note, obviously being in other programs and knowing what Memphis is, especially playing in the American, how are you going to help your guys in practice go about knowing that this team has a huge target on its back the rest of the way?
Just reiterating the message of that, we are now the hunted, not the hunter now. So that's a total different mindset to have. So we're going to get every team's best shot moving forward. And knowing that, we got to make sure that we step on the gas, we do things even more at a higher level, do the small things at an even higher level. Everything just has to kind of intensify and, just move upwards in that direction. I think for me, it's just a matter of just being consistent, making sure that, I bring it every day, because I can only control what I can control. But if guys are looking at me and I'm bringing it every day, hopefully it rubs off on them. So I think for us, it's just obviously we got to up the intensity as well, but just remain consistent.
Colby, the Maui hangover or whatever you want to call it, you're in this beautiful place. You're playing blue blood programs, UConn, Michigan State, Auburn. Is it tough to kind of get back in the day-to-day grind here and get hyped up for a midweek game against Louisiana Tech and just kind of like get back in that mindset?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, for some you could say it's tough. Obviously, I would look at it like if you go on vacation for a week and then you come back home, now you got to go for work. Obviously, it's not the same kind of enthusiasm per se. Like Coach Nolan told us today, human nature just kind of got the best of us. But luckily, we came out with the win. And I think for us, it's just a learning curve for us. Obviously, we're still, we just got together like a couple months ago. So these type of things can happen. But I just think, we can learn from it. And moving forward, we got to make sure that, when we have moments like this, we lock back in and just get back to doing what we, are known to do, what we hold ourselves to, and just hold each other accountable. So, I mean, yeah, obviously with human nature and things like that, that stuff can't happen. But, we just got to learn from it and move forward.
Colby, in the back, Penny said that after what he's seen from y'all through the first 8 games, that he believes y'all have the potential to be a top 5 defensive team in the country. Do you believe that as well, and why?
Yes, I do believe that as well. I think we have a lot of length, athleticism, size, and I think we mix up defenses a lot. We press a little bit, we'll trap a little bit, we'll go zone a little bit, then we'll go straight man. We'll switch 1 through 5. Our versatility defensively really helps us. I think it's matters us staying locked in for 40 minutes, knowing the scout. Just continue to make strides in that direction. I think we can definitely get to a top 5 team defensively. Just got to keep working at it.
A couple more from me. What kind of have you and Tyrese and PJ reached your full potential? Like how seems like you guys have a pretty high ceiling, like as a sort of a 3-headed monster.
Yeah, I wouldn't say reached our full potential. I think we still have a lot more to reach. I think right now we've kind of found a little rhythm together. We kind of felt everything out. I think the 2 exhibition games start the season really helped us learn each other because we've never played together. And then, to learn on the fly is kind of hard. But I think we made great strides in that, but I think we have another level to get to. I think we can bring other guys along with us as well. I think it's just a matter of just continue to work, continue to talk, continue to stay in the gym, continue to be consistent, and eventually we'll get there.
And then would you say, there's been a lot of talk about human nature, would you say that's probably the biggest obstacle from the team's perspective?
Yeah, I mean, realistically speaking, I think coming off of Maui for a game like this, I kind of got the best of us tonight. But then again, we pulled the win out. Now we just got to learn from it, watch film, get back in the gym, kind of turn the page, flush all that out, and really get back in that mindset of, we're being hunted, but we got to, stay as if like we're hunting just because we know now we're going to get every team's best shot. And for us, the we don't have as much, I would say, leeway as other teams. So we have to just be perfect with things like that.
Colby, I got two quick ones for you, but Penny mentioned the value of you and PJ and others having played in this conference, having played in the AAC, and obviously there being a whole lot of Louisiana Techs, in the AAC. What can you tell your teammates that haven't been in this league about what kind of focus it takes, even when the opponent's name isn't, UConn or Michigan State or Auburn or whatever?
Yeah, it takes focus as if we're playing UConn or teams like that. Obviously, any team can be beaten on any day. And we have to know that is a possibility if, you come out there and you're like the days ago or you take a team for granted. So I think, I just reiterate the message of, we have to be on point. We can't have no slippage. We can't allow teams to get confidence and things like that when we have opportunity to keep our foot on the gas, which I think we'll get better at for sure. I just think, it was just one of those days where it kind of just got the best of us. But, with the guys we have coming in, a lot of them played high major basketball, so they know what it's like to lock in on that type of level. So I think the transition will be good for us.
And speaking of kind of keeping your foot on the gas, like it seemed like in the first half and especially in the second when Tyrese hit that 3-pointer with whatever 11, 12 minutes to go, they all were going to kind of run away with the game and put it away. What did Louisiana Tech do defensively that had y'all in a dry spell both those times and allowed them to claw their way back?
Yeah, I think one time they had went zone, which kind of messed up our rhythm a little bit because it kind of just messed things up per se. And I think they hit a shot on the other end that kind of like stopped the run we were about to make. So for us, I think we just got to, for one, get a stop on that end. And then two, just make sure that, if a team is going to go zone, we just get to our stuff a little bit quicker. Don't take so long to get into it. And I think we'll be fine.
When we were talking on the golf course back in August, one of the things that you kind of noted was that, you were able to kind of observe, what was happening with Memphis last year and what went wrong and things like that. And, their collapse, it kind of started with, games like this against, teams perceived to be lesser or whatever else. Obviously you weren't here last year, but, what do you take, from the lessons of that, based off of what you saw to prevent a similar, downturn from happening this year?
Yeah, well, Penny harps a lot about just staying together, blocking the outside noise and making sure that regardless of what happens, we come together. We don't spread out. We don't separate. And I think we've kind of bought into that. I think we kind of lean on each other for in tough moments. And I think, as long as we stay with that, we'll be fine. I just think we just can't allow, outside forces to creep in and mess up what we're building. And I think as long as we believe in that, we'll be good.
Thanks, Colby.
Thanks.
Thank you.
All right. That was Colby Rogers giving his post-game thoughts after the Memphis Tigers win 81-71 against Louisiana Tech. Really quickly, I won't totally rehash everything that Colby said. He made really great insight overall. Lots of questions about the Maui hangover. Lots and lots of questions about that. And he gave really consistent, really solid answers that Memphis just has to stay locked in. They have to realize they're now the hunted, not the hunter, but they can't play like that. They have to play like the hunter on any night, every night, because on any given night, they can be beat. Just look at what happens across the country. I mean, not even just that. Y'all, this is sports. This is college basketball. Upsets happen all the time. And so if you're not locked in, you can get beat by basically anybody. That's just the nature of sports. And Colby knows that. This team should know that. Penny Hardaway definitely knows that. So hopefully, as I've said before, hopefully they show signs of fully locking in, fully turning that page, and hopefully they blow out Arkansas State when they face them on the 8th. I love the point that Colby made that, yeah, they might not have had the same enthusiasm to play basketball after taking that long break, kind of akin to kind of what we had to do, what you and I had to do coming off of Thanksgiving, and then you have a weekend, and you're all stuffed with Thanksgiving food. I hope all of you had a great Thanksgiving, by the way. Sorry, I should have said that earlier. Hope all of you had a great Thanksgiving. But we're all feeling good. And then Monday hits you. And then Monday hits you, and you got to go back to work. You got to go back to the grind. And I promise you that there wasn't anyone in the country, very, very few people in the country, that were like, oh, yay, it's Monday. Let's go. I'm so excited to work again. No, like that's just human nature. You had a long break. You had spent time with your family. You're able to relax and just recharge your batteries. And yeah, when Monday hit, I'm sure it's always a tough Monday. Post Thanksgiving, the Monday after is definitely a hard one. So again, as Colby said, all human nature. But Colby said the right things. They have to lock in. They have to stay together. Colby knows how good the AAC is, top to bottom. He's aware of the slide Memphis had last year. They're saying the right things. They are. They weren't great in the first half of this game. We all know that. Second half, they were good enough to win the game. And as it was said before, that's what matters. They were good enough to win the game. As William Jones said here, there is no better teacher than experience. I'm glad we have guys that will respect those conference games when they come, because I saw some posts before this game that Louisiana Tech was going to be a cakewalk. Yeah. Whoever said that Louisiana Tech was going to be a cakewalk, I don't think they understand. They didn't get it. Like, I'll just be real. They didn't get it. They're a solid team. That was a solid team that Memphis played, and they were still able to come away with the victory. And let me take that batter away because I'm not Colby Rogers. Sorry about that. I should have seen that sooner. But yeah, this was a game that Memphis was able to pull away eventually and get the dub. So as we look ahead, as I said before, they face Arkansas State on Sunday the 8th. That's a home game. It's on ESPNU. Memphis is, again, favored by a lot to win this game. They should win this game by a lot. So hopefully they do. Hopefully they're able to kind of quell those concerns about the lack of effort. It's now a small opponent. Are they going to come out weak and not play with the intensity they need? Hopefully that's not the case. Hopefully they play hard and they get a big time win. But then after that, it gets real. At Clemson, who just beat Kentucky, by the way. I'm sure y'all saw that. Clemson just beat Kentucky the other night. So that's another very good team at Clemson. And then they go at Virginia. I know they lost their head coach, Tony Bennett, but it's still Virginia. That's still Virginia. They're going to play them on their home court as well. And then they got 2 home games against Mississippi State, who was ranked. They're not ranked right now, but they're still a really good team, SEC team. And then Ole Miss, the big one, the rivalry game. And these are this is going to be a massive stretch of games for the Tigers. Well, I'll preview them more after Arkansas State, but it's a big stretch for Memphis, and hopefully they'll be able to come away from that stretch with a solid record and keep their top 25 ranking. But yeah, so that's the show. Memphis won 81-71 against Louisiana Tech. To close everything out, again, thank you so much to everyone who tuned in. All of y'all tuning in, all of y'all in the comments. Shout out to all of you for just being a part of the show, talking to me and being a part of the show. I appreciate it all so much. Y'all are the best. And so I tune in next time after Arkansas State Sunday. And let me check the time of this game. I think 3 p.m. Arkansas State at home. So hopefully y'all go to the game. And if you don't go to the game, or if you do, join me right here on Tigers Live. And until next time, y'all, peace.
Thank you for listening to this episode of Tigers Live. If you enjoyed this episode, like and subscribe to Bluff City Media's YouTube page. For comprehensive coverage of all things Memphis sports, head over to www.bluffcitymedia.co and find out how you can become an insider. We will see you back here next time.